we're going to talk about some general sort of dot points, age points, but of course you know your baby best, and these are very, very general. So there's quite a significant leeway. And if there is something you're concerned about, we should probably say it's a great time to talk to your child health nurse. You will have regular checks with your child health nurse through that first year. So please take all the months and kind of
with a grain
milestones
of salt.
with a grain of salt.
Don't feel bad if your baby can last maybe 5 seconds on their tummy. And you can do it lots of different ways. It doesn't have to be specifically on the floor with toys around them.
Generally, if our baby hasn't taken some steps by 18 months, we probably want to chat with someone, but it again depends on the environment.
Yeah.
Sometimes babies that have a lot of older siblings, they may be taking steps earlier.
Ngala acknowledges Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people as the traditional custodians of Australia and recognises their continuing connection to land, waters and community. We pay our respects to elders past, present and emerging in the spirit of reconciliation. We acknowledge the importance of children being raised with connection to culture, community and family.
Hi Jen, we're so excited to be back for season 2 of Parenting with Ngala.
Yes.
I'm Hannah, I'm a registered occupational therapist.
And I'm Jen, I'm a nurse and a midwife, and we both work on the Ngala parenting line in WA.
And the Ngala parenting line helps families in WA or anyone caregiving for a child with any parenting related question from conception till the age of 18.
Yes. And so this season, we're going to be talking about the period between 3 months and 1 year.
There's a lot that happens in that time, and we're going to touch on quite a few topics like starting solids, social and emotional wellness, gross and fine motor, sleep, what to expect for, behaviourally from that infant.
Yep.
But today we're going to focus a little bit on gross motor development.
Yes. Everyone loves it because they can see it.
Yeah, it's probably one of the more obvious ones that we notice.
Yes. So what are we starting with today?
So today we're going to start by talking a bit about gross motor. And I suppose, before you know it, you'll be packing away those newborn clothes and you'll be pulling out the next size. Your little bundle of joy is starting to wake up, starting to move around. So we thought that was a good place to start. And everyone loves to talk about motor development because it's really obvious.
Yeah.
It's kind of the first thing. People are like, baby's crawling or baby's taking steps, baby's starting to roll around.
Yeah.
So it's a nice place to start, isn't it?
It's a good one. I like it because it's the end of that 4th trimester. So you see your baby start to really wake up to the world and they really become a little person and get a personality, and you start to see that temperament come through, and it's just so interesting.
It's so interesting. And, generally with development in the first year, we can see a general pattern. But because of temperament and because we're all individuals, we all have different bodies, we all have different minds, there can be obviously a lot of variation as well. So we're going to talk about some general sort of dot points, age points, but of course you know your baby best, and these are very, very general. So there's quite a significant leeway. And if there is something you're concerned about, we should probably say it's a great time to talk to your child health nurse. You will have regular checks with your child health nurse through that first year. So please take all the months and kind of
with a grain
milestones
of salt.
with a grain of salt. Exactly.
Yeah. So first thing that we would like to talk about would be something like tummy time.
Tummy time. Everyone loves tummy time. You'll hear about it probably from the beginning. And if you read any sort of parenting books, it often gets mentioned, or if you're looking on parenting websites, tummy time is out there, and it is really important.
Super important. So really it's about strengthening their entire body, but that neck, that torso, their arms, their legs, figuring out where their body starts and finishes, that gravity that pulls their little head over, and we start to think that they're very advanced because they can roll, but actually
it's just gravity doing its job. Yeah.
Those heads, if you think about a baby's head in comparison to its body, huge.
Yeah. Proportionally.
Yes.
Proportionally, that head is really big compared to the body. We all know that. Anyone that's had a physiological vaginal birth knows how big that head is.
Yeah, it's etched into memory.
Yes. Yeah. So, tummy time is really important because it is all about that baby starting to be able to hold its head up. And we need, as human beings, to hold our head up for a lot of things.
It's very important.
It's pretty important.
Absolutely.
But those muscles in our baby's bodies are really small, and that head is very big. So it's really small to start with. The things that we're doing to promote tummy time, very small, very short, but very important. And as days go on and weeks go on, our baby starts to want to actually keep their head up because they want to see the world, and because, as we will talk about through the season, babies are hardwired to socially connect and to explore their environment.
Yeah.
So we're just kind of creating and nudging along those opportunities to do that. And tummy time's a great way to start.
Kind of like a little workout.
A little
for your
workout.
baby.
So if for someone that might not know, what does tummy time look like, or what could it look like?
It can look so different for all babies. Some babies hate it.
Some babies
and so
hate
they will, the minute you put them down, they will just carry on until you pick them up. And that's normal and expected because it's really hard work. And I think, don't feel bad if your baby can last maybe 5 seconds on their tummy. And you can do it lots of different ways. It doesn't have to be specifically on the floor with your toys around them. You can do it on your chest. And so if you lie down on a flat surface with baby on your chest, they're going to lift their head up to kind of look at you and connect with you. And I think that's a really nice way to do it a lot of the time, instead of that kind of what we think about when we think about tummy time.
Yeah, that more kind of laying down, and you have that image in your head of that baby sort of maybe pushing through their forearms, looking around.
Yeah.
Well, we're aiming to get to that, but some babies will really not tolerate that posture for very long. So especially the younger ones, where they're still developing that strength. So, baby up on the chest, even baby up on the shoulder. Like, if your baby's if your baby's a bit of a spewer, that's a posture that you're probably going to be quite familiar with, holding baby up over your shoulder. But it's great for those happy spewers or those unhappy spewers maybe, but also really great because they're having to work a little bit against gravity, but it's not the full impact of gravity like it is when they're laying in that on that tummy to surface posture.
Yeah, and I think remembering as well, like to help them a little bit. You can prop their arms up. Yep. You can put a little kind of pillow
or towel
in front of them, so they've just got that little bit of support, and it's not just them versus gravity because they're not going to win. Yeah, or little things.
And also, thinking about what your baby is looking at, what's around, and it doesn't necessarily have to be toys. Like babies in this next, sort of chunk from 3-4 months onwards, they really like anything interesting. Could be shadows, light, could be near a window, something that's interesting for them to look at.
Yeah, everything's
just not
new.
a wall.
Yeah, not a blank wall. Black and white and red, we know are really good colours for babies, but they do start to be able to see colours more as well at this age.
And we are actually going to talk about vision development a little bit later in another episode, so we'll touch on that a bit later. Yeah. Tummy time is so important. All those muscles that are holding the head and the trunk up, key part of being able to sit and also to start solids. So we will talk about solids in another episode, but if you're thinking about like, why is this even important? Just think it's a building block. It's a bit of a stepping stone to some of those other skills that we're going to see kind of humming along later.
Yeah. I think it's also important that we realise tummy time is important for their head as well, and the shape of their head.
Yes.
Because their bones are so soft at this age. They do a lot of lying on their back because we do drum into people, sleep your baby on their back, sleep your baby on their back. But actually, we need to get them off their back a lot of the time too, so they don't end up with flat heads.
Yeah, or tightness.
That torticollis kind of tightness in their neck. And, it happens a lot. Babies have a very preferred side, which they will look at. They'll constantly go to that side, and it's all about kind of getting them used to looking to the other side gently.
Yes, it's a way for them. You can stretch and strengthen muscles on either side of the neck to prevent that stiffness. So, Jen, you mentioned that tightness, maybe a preference to one side, and we know babies are sleeping a lot. We want babies to be sleeping on their back. If a parent starts to notice a bit of a flat patch or a sort of a change in the shape of their baby's head, what does that mean? And are there any sort of risk factors or things that parents should be doing or looking at?
Yeah, it can be quite a worry for a lot of parents, and they can see it. It's quite noticeable when they do get that flat patch. It is quite common, but it would be worth reaching out to a paediatric physio and maybe seeing them if there's some exercises that you can do just to help baby strengthen the other side so that they kind of will turn their head the other way. But we don't want parents to panic. It is really common for babies to have a preferred side, and just doing tummy time and getting them out of that side as much as possible is going to be really important. I always say as well that if you want your baby to start turning their head the other way, put them the other way in the cot. So maybe they start looking for the light somewhere, and so they might turn their head slightly to where the light is or to where your voice is so that it's not always the same spot in the cot for them.
Yeah, I think and paediatric physios are really good at giving some exercise, but also looking sort of at the environment and giving some tips around that. So maybe, rotating baby first off their feet are down this end, then the next time you put them down, their feet are down the other end.
Yeah.
The other thing we think about is that sometimes depending on what our hand dominance is that we might be always feeding, if they're a bottle-fed baby particularly, feeding them on one side, which is also going to cause a sort of a preference or a tilt of the neck to one side. So making sure that we're rotating for bottle-fed babies on which arm we're sort of holding their weight on. So paediatric physios are great for giving lots of tips around that. So if you kind of are struggling with tummy time and you're also noticing maybe some change in your baby's head shape, that's probably a good place to start.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Great. Okay, so tummy time is preparing your baby to get going, but before you know it, they actually will be going and on the move. So let's talk about rolling and crawling.
Rolling.
Yeah. When do we typically see it coming out?
Well, the first one you see is the front to back.
Yeah.
The head we'd mentioned before with gravity pulling that heavy head down to the ground.
It's accidental as well
usually,
often. Yeah, we might see an accidental
roll. And it
roll.
can really scare babies sometimes because if you think about as a baby, they don't actually know that the ground's going to catch them.
Yeah.
So all they feel is that change in their, in their perspective of the world, and they're not sure what's going to happen to them. So it can be quite scary.
Yeah.
It just takes a little bit of practice. And after they've done it a few times, they'll start to get more used to it. The rolling from the back to the front is definitely the harder way to go.
There's a lot more core involved in that.
Yeah, absolutely. And then we see that at around that 4 to 5 months.
Yeah.
You might see that, a deliberate roll from back to front. You'll start to see babies bringing their legs up and kind of rocking. Yeah, moving side to side. And you can really encourage that as well by supporting them because, again, they don't know that the earth's going to catch them when they go that way. So all they feel is that change in gravity and it's quite scary for them sometimes. We've even helped babies by popping a towel under them and just doing kind of the rocking motion so that they feel a little bit safe. Yeah, they feel that support and then they can just get a little bit more confident. Yeah,
so rolling, we might start to see some early signs maybe around that 4-month mark, sort of 4 to 6 months. That's when I suppose babies typically might roll, but some will be a bit later and that's also okay as well. And one way that I suppose parents can help, again, is as you said, there's lots of techniques, but even just putting your baby laying on their side and then with some toys, that can be, and maybe, or even if they're in tummy time, putting some toys a little bit out of reach. So they're having to experiment with a bit of weight shifting.
Yeah.
So there's lots of techniques and you can Google how to, support rolling if we kind of want our baby to roll. Some people don't want their baby to roll because what does it mean when our baby starts rolling?
Well, it means their arms can no longer be swaddled while they're asleep. And it's a big change in the sleeping scenario, which can be really scary. As again, we've said, we drill into parents, sleep your baby on their back. But once they start rolling, they're going to roll and find a comfy position. And it can be very startling as a parent to see your baby asleep on their tummy in the middle of the night and parents want to roll them back to their back. But unswaddling arms comes with a whole other, things that happen.
Like hitting themselves in the face.
That's right. They don't know. They're not used to having their arms free in the middle of the night or while they're sleeping. And so they wake themselves up consistently. And it can be very disruptive to sleep.
And we know babies are typically born with lots of different reflexes, and one of them is that startle reflex.
Yeah.
But again, as our babies is exploring the environment and integrating those reflexes don't become as intense, I suppose, and eventually they turn into more sort of planned volitional movements.
Yeah.
So when we first unswaddle a baby, because they are starting to show signs of rolling or are rolling, they may still have a little bit of a startle reflex. They may still hit themselves and wake up and get upset about it. But knowing that is not going to be like that forever. Actually that ability to roll gives them more little tools in their toolbox to help them find a comfortable sleep position.
Yeah, we want them to be doing that. This is something they need to do.
Exactly. And once a baby can roll, back to front, front to back, then we can actually as parents feel safe and secure ourselves knowing that they can get themselves into a comfortable sleep position that is safe.
Yeah, that's right.
We may still always feel more comfortable laying them down to start the night or to start their sleep on their back and then letting them find that space.
Yeah. I think as well with the arms out that it's the practice. So you can start by doing one arm in, one arm out. You can start by doing, both arms out and rip the Band-Aid off. But the more they have them out, the better they're going to get at having those arms out.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why we often say when your baby starts to show those signs of rolling, then start to think about unswaddling. So it might be that, you start with one arm out for one of the naps and you're building your confidence as well as theirs through that. Okay, so crawling. Crawling often we might start seeing from, again, these are all very loose. We don't want to stress anyone out. But, from 7 to 10 months, often we see a baby start to crawl.
And some babies never crawl.
Some don't. Some are bum shufflers.
Or they just stand up and start walking.
Yeah, that's terrifying when you get a 9-month-old that does that.
Yeah. Usually second baby sees the sibling and goes, absolutely not, I'm not crawling, I want to run after you.
Yeah. And some babies crawl, again, in a way that doesn't look traditionally.
Commando crawling, where they might drag their legs behind them and pull themselves with their arm.
A sort of gorilla type crawl where there's sort of a strange sort of like leg swing that's going on. Bum up, a bear crawl with the sort of more like a downward dog.
Where they're like on all fours, like their feet and hands.
Yep. Imagine being in a downward dog and then moving.
Absolutely not.
That's what we're talking about.
How do they do it?
Do you know what? But I guess it just shows us that we're motivated to move. We're motivated to explore the environment. And so how your baby does that, the main thing is that they are exploring the environment. That's what we're looking for. Interacting with the environment, trying things. And again, because temperament's starting to come out here, there will be some babies that have more persistence than others. And then that can impact how they go about moving.
That's right. They might just move however they can.
Yes.
And that might be they roll across the entire room.
Exactly. They're going to go, this is efficient. I'm fine with
this. This is fine. I can get over there and I can get that toy or I can touch the dog or the cat. I'm going to do it. But other babies are very happy just to chill in one spot and they may show no signs of rolling or crawling. They're just not interested.
They're exploring maybe more visually with the environment.
That's
or
right.
maybe they're more interested in interacting with toys with their hands.
Yeah, so, and I think size comes into it as well.
Yes.
Some of those bigger babies, it's a lot of
baby to
bulk to move, so it can be harder for them.
Yeah.
And that's not wrong or right. It's just that, that is what it is.
They still have sort of the same size muscles but a lot more baby to move.
Yeah.
So, we kind of look at our baby, we look at what they're doing and as long as they're attempting to engage in the environment, that's a really good sign, particularly at this time.
Yeah.
Don't get too caught up about how your baby's moving. If they're moving, that's probably a good sign.
Yeah, that's great.
And if you are worried, you can always take a little quick video
and
take it to your child health nurse and have a bit of a chat if you think, is this something to be worried about?
Yeah, because sometimes it does look a bit unusual and there might be a leg that's being dragged and it just looks like maybe that's different. Not right. Yeah. But the best thing to do, like you said, take a video so that you can show.
Yeah. And generally at this age, babies are not showing any sort of hand preference. So that's something else to think about is that if a baby is consistently using one hand over the other, then that's something that you might want to have a conversation of or start to create opportunities to use the other hand.
Yeah.
Because at this age, we wouldn't expect to see hand preference. So if we do see a bit of a preference to one side of the body, there might be a bit of a muscle imbalance or there might be something else at play. So it is worth talking to a professional, your GP or your child health nurse if you're noticing a preference on one side.
Yeah.
So your baby's moving.
Yeah, baby proof. You've got to get everything up a level.
Yes.
You've got to think about it. The best thing to do, I think, is get on the floor and see what they're going to look at and what they're going to go after.
Yeah.
Because everything is new and delicious for them. Yeah. They're very much everything in the mouth.
Yeah. And there's also, I think, the obvious ones, like people, think about, okay, the oven, maybe you can get little gadgets to particularly if you've got a lower oven to kind of lock your oven and, cords, power cords, cords for curtains, those sorts of really ones where you think, I don't want my baby to get entangled in those things. But then there's the other ones, like your very expensive hand cream that you keep on your bedside table. You think, I really don't want, your skin doesn't need that.
No, that's right. You're dewy.
Yes.
Don't steal my cream.
Yes. So there's those things that are definite safety ones, but then there's also ones where you're like, actually, this is just a reshuffling of where I put my things in the house as well.
It's interesting. We keep a lot of our cleaning products under the sink.
Yeah.
And so that's the first place a baby is going to go there. Open that, pull those things out. So it's just about moving everything up.
Moving things
where they
up.
can't get to.
And then also looking if there is a drawer that you can allocate to your baby.
Yeah.
You know, so that they can be that rummage drawer and they can feel like they're really part of, particularly in the kitchen, because that's often a place where we
Pots
are.
and pans, some plastic Tupperware containers that they can take out and throw around.
All at that sort of lower level. Yeah, great. Baby proofing's a good one.
Yeah.
The other one I think about as well is as our baby starts to move, particularly if it's your first baby, you may actually not have some of your bigger furniture secured to the wall.
Yeah.
And if you've got a baby that is very explorative and that is motivated, that we don't want a baby climbing up, say, on a bookcase that isn't secured to the wall. So, again, not to scare anyone, but just to think about those things if you've got furniture that's freestanding.
And corners.
Oh, corners, to coffee table.
Coffee tables. Babies love to pull themselves up onto a coffee table, and those corners can be really mean if they fall. So,
so you can get little covers for corners. And again, if you're thinking about your furniture, if you've got glass furniture, you know, there might be a time and a space.
Yeah, that's right. Might go away for a little while and then have to come back out.
Yeah, you don't want to deal with all those fingerprints.
No,
anyway.
absolutely not.
Yeah. Okay.
So speaking of standing.
Yes.
So pulling to stand, what age are we thinking?
Pulling to stand probably, again, is pretty wide, but it could be as early as 7 months, but, you know, and even up to 12 months. Starting to really look at the world from a different angle, I suppose. And we see a lot of babies start to even what I call like furniture surf. So they might be kind of waddling around, taking a few steps, but around the coffee table or along the side of the couch.
Or holding hands with mum or dad.
Yeah.
You know, as you're walking down the hall, they will just kind of toddle in front of you. Lots of kind of that walking on the tops of their feet, so you're not seeing that firm planting of their feet on the ground.
And their feet are still really soft and round at this stage. They're not going to have like the developed arches. You know, that's all happening in those first sort of 2 years to start to get more those natural curves of the foot that we have that enable us to weight bear through our whole body through our feet.
Yes.
Babies get stuck in standing.
They do.
Yeah.
This happens a lot in the middle of the night. And that's another thing as well, is that when babies are doing all these new things, crawling, rolling, standing, they practice it in their cot overnight.
Yeah.
So you're going to look in your cot and see your baby on their knees rocking in the middle of the night for absolutely no reason other than they're learning this new skill of crawling. And they'll do the same with standing. And a lot of babies get stuck and then they have to call out for you to come and get them.
Yeah, and they can't get down. And it's absolutely okay to help our baby to get down.
Oh, absolutely. But I think including it in playtime and practicing that getting down while they're awake in the day. So when they pull themselves up onto the couch, we teach them how to get back down safely.
Yeah. Just guiding them down. A good one is sitting behind them with your legs crossed so that then if they're, say, holding onto a coffee table, you can help them kind of release their hands, hold their hands and then kind of bring them down. So it's not such a big drop onto the ground because you're sitting behind them. Yeah. Or you might even have some toys on the table and then some toys on the ground. So they're still standing, but they're having to sort of, I'm moving away from the microphone because I'm doing the movement. They're having to sort of weight shift to one side. And that's actually really good for the head as well because that's starting to get the head used to, my head is moving. It's called a writing reaction. So my head is moving, but my body's sort of staying in line with my head.
Oh, that's fabulous. I've never even heard of that. Yeah. Here comes the OT. I love it.
I have to jog my memory. It's been a long time. But writing reactions and equilibrium reactions are how our heads sort of stay aligned with our body and how we sort of, if we start to weight shift, we can correct ourselves and we keep our head in the same alignment as our body.
Yeah. Yeah. And again, it's all practice.
All practice and sort of supporting those opportunities. Yeah. Babies will naturally do it. But sometimes us as parents, we can look at it and go, oh, how can I help my baby here? And it's absolutely okay to help our baby because some of these experiences are actually quite hard for them. So if we're quite motivated and we want them to be learning these new things, make sure you're giving them a chance to be still close to you and to have your help because it's actually quite challenging.
Yeah, and scary.
And scary.
Their body's moving through space. They've never done these things before.
Yeah. And some babies will be, more persistent than others.
Yeah. Yeah.
Some will be able to tolerate, that little bit of distress and uncomfortableness for longer than others. And others will, be like, oh, I'm scared. Help me straight away.
I need support.
Yeah.
Yep. And there's no right and wrong.
No. So just temperament, you're kind of a little bit more or a little bit less.
Yeah. Yep. When would we see those first steps independently? What age?
Again, it can be pretty broad, but we'd probably say, 12 to 16 months. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Generally, if our baby hasn't taken some steps by 18 months, we probably want to chat with someone. But it, again, depends on the environment.
Yeah.
Sometimes babies that have a lot of older siblings, they may be taking steps earlier. But in other situations, they may actually be taking steps later because their older siblings are carrying them around a lot more. So
bringing them things.
So they're not as motivated to explore the environment because they've got these little messengers who are treating them like,
funny.
Yeah. So we want to, again, look at the environment, look at the opportunities. But if, by 18 months we're not seeing a baby that's taking steps, then good time to chat with someone. But again, it can be it can be earlier, but often a lot of babies take their first steps around their first birthday.
Yeah, yeah. I had a 10-month who decided he wanted to walk.
Oh, no.
Not keen. Once they walk, you got to chase them.
Yeah, and it's a bit like a drunk pirate.
Yeah. Beautiful. Yeah. It's so funny.
Sort of staggering around. Yeah.
Yeah.
And because of that staggering, babies do fall over.
Yeah.
And that some babies will do a combination for a really long time of crawling and taking some steps. Because that stepping is harder. It's taking more mental and physical energy, and maybe the crawling feels more efficient. So they might try the steps for a little bit, and then they drop down and they crawl the rest of the way. Again, really normal to be encouraged.
It's quite funny actually watching them take these very slow steps and then drop and speed across the floor.
Yeah.
So fast.
So fast. Yeah, they're like, no, I'll be more efficient. And if our baby falls down, it's about offering them comfort, trying to think about how you react as well. We don't want to minimise their experience by dismissing it.
Yes.
But we also don't want to over sort of respond in a way that is causing them more distress. So we're being responsive.
Yeah.
We love talking about responsiveness.
We do. But and just naming it.
Yeah.
You fell over. That is scary.
Mummy can help you.
That's right.
And that reassurance, that full circle that mum or dad are going to help you when things get too hard.
That's right. Yeah. Building that trust.
And you might find that you have a child that really likes Band-Aids as well.
Yeah, that's right. A Band-Aid can fix a lot.
Yeah, or an ouchie pack.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Little ice pack.
Ice pack. Yeah, a little soft ice pack. Yeah. So we've been talking about what we refer to as gross motor development in this episode. There is also a thing called fine motor development.
Yeah.
And these muscles will help babies learn through touch, manage eating solids, and help them with their language, with their forming their words. And I think we'll touch on all of this in episode 2 if you're happy to.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll chat again and extend this conversation next time.
Thanks for listening to Parenting with Ngala. The topics covered in our podcast are general in nature, and the information might not suit everyone. If you're in Western Australia and would like to chat about a specific challenge, you can talk directly to the Ngala Parenting Line by calling 9368 9368. For all other links and resources, check out the Ngala website and the show notes below. Thank you again and see you next time.